Hello and welcome to the first in, hopefully, a new series of podcasts from TORCommunity called Take a Seat, where I will take a seat and sit down with some members from the SWTOR community and discuss how they view various different things. This week, in the inaugural show, I'm joined by the almighty powerhouse that is Teo and his cheekbones, and also Chill from OotiniCast. And we'll be discussing a few different things about the podcast, about the community as a whole, and also about the game itself. So we've got quite a few things to go through tonight. But first of all, let's get to meet and greet my guests this evening. So first off, we'll go through Teo. So Teo, for anyone who doesn't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have been gaming for a long time. Though I'll admit, for the first part of my life, I was very work-focused, and so didn't game at all. I missed out on all of the early MMOs. And so my first MMO was actually World of Warcraft, which I started playing just before the Wrath of the Lich King released. And so I played through that, and pretty much up until Star Wars The Old Republic came out. And I have been playing that ever since.
Okay, so what was it that made you switch from WoW to SWTOR?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. I think that's the answer to everyone, isn't it? Wait, why do you play this game? Star Wars. I like lightsabers.
Though, when I first heard about it on the original TORCommunity back when it was Sam and Eric Moscow, and I actually got into a weekend beta, maybe 6 months before launch, and I just fell in love with it at that point. I just loved the game. I mean, WoW was okay, but there was just something about Star Wars, specifically the way you actually play your character. You can see yourself, and it just felt far more immersive an experience.
See,
there was no turning back.
I had the opposite experience when I played the beta, because I was super excited about the game, and then I played the beta, and it had some of the most horrendous lag I've ever experienced in the game. And I was kind of on the fence about, shall I play this or not? But I'd already pre-ordered my collector's edition, so it was a bit late by then anyway, to be honest with you. Shout out to Malgus, still wrapping the shaft love. Okay, and you've been playing since launch then, really?
Yes, all the way through.
Okay. And what about you, Chill?
Yeah, been playing since launch as well, and got into it, old Star Wars fan. At the time, had been playing World of Warcraft for a long time. Teo was my raid leader, and and I'd just been feeling for the last, for me, Wrath of the Lich King was sort of the peak, and then I kind of like Cataclysm. It was pretty good, not quite as good, but good. And I really didn't like Panda very much at all. So, when I found out, kind of semi-late. I mean, definitely people had known about SWTOR for a long time by then, but. I found out that there's this Star Wars MMO coming out, and it's going to be a major, by a major studio. It's going to be, top of the line sort of stuff. Yeah. And I got excited. So that's when we kind of started to make the switch. Technically, we kept playing WoW for a while, even past SWTOR launch.
We tried.
Eventually, we dropped it. Yeah.
The question I've got for you, and it's a burning question: what is Teo like as a raid leader? Is he calm and collected, or is he one of these more dots? That's mine. That's 50 DKP kind of guy. Well, what's he like?
Oh yeah, he's exactly as he is on the podcast.
Oh, he's that bad? Oh my god.
He's organized. He's organized. He's ready. He's calm. And he's generally forgiving, but he also likes to, push us too, so that we don't slack. So it's all good.
No Teo rage then.
Nah, not really.
That should be a challenge for you, Jill. How many wipes until Teo flips out? All right, so moving on to the main topics you're going to go through tonight. The first one I want to talk about is your area of expertise, which is your own podcast, like OotiniCast. So, how long have you guys been doing this for now? I was thinking of this when I wrote the questions, and I couldn't remember, because you've done it pretty much every single week, haven't you, since you started?
Yes, everyone.
Single, yes, that's what I thought. So, how long have you been doing that for?
Well, last show when we released it, episode 235, 19 November, was our 4-year anniversary.
4 years.
Just to make it easier.
Jesus.
So 4 years, yeah.
That's a long time to do something consistently every single week.
It is, isn't it?
It's tricky sometimes too. Yeah.
I can really imagine. So you said you played WoW before this. Did you do anything like this in WoW?
No, nothing, not at all. We had a friend, Hypnotoad, who was a guest on the first year or so of the show.
Yeah.
And both of us were interested in his podcast because he did one about World of Warcraft and general gaming. And we both guested with him a time or two. And yeah, but no, nothing like this. It was Chill's idea to actually do a podcast.
We can blame Chill then.
Yes, yeah,
I took a lot of convincing.
I caught the bug, from Hypnotoad's podcast. I was starting to send in audio files like on a pretty regular basis there for a while, and just kind of like thought, well, this is pretty damn fun. This is pretty interesting. So, and then this WoW, we were already since I was already kind of past WoW, and the SWTOR was coming up. It's like, well, this is certainly a good time to be interested in SWTOR and maybe starting a podcast. So,
okay,
So
what were your main motivations for doing the show, other than I just want to do a podcast? Was that just it?
It was sort of a catch the bug sort of deal.
Yeah.
Just sort of a labor of love sort of thing, where you just wanted to. I just came to Teo and said, I'm looking at doing a podcast, and I know you had mentioned in over Mumble that you were going to be playing this game too. So
yeah.
Though for me, I was extremely, I guess you could say, irritated by the other podcasts at the time in terms of the accuracy of their reporting. Now, I was pretty happy with the shows generally because they were entertaining enough, but they kept getting stuff wrong, and it really, really bothered me. And I thought that if we're going to do, Chill proposed the idea of a podcast, and one thing we were always going to do was be as accurate and thorough as possible. Really report the news.
Yeah.
So that was a motivation. Just do it right.
Do it right, okay. So then have you got any for the ladies then? I thought that would be your main motivation.
Well, it worked out that way.
Well, did you meet your partners through Star Wars?
For Teo.
Oh, did you really? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
She saw those cheekbones and thought, go on, mate. Wouldn't mind getting my lips around that. Oh, that's my terrible Aussie accent. I'm sorry, that was so bad. Don't ever tell Ari that I did that impression. Let's forget that and move on. So you touched on it a little bit then, saying you wanted to go for accuracy in your information. Was there any kind of overall vision that you had for the podcast? Like when you set out, you wanted it to be one specific thing?
Well, not for me. Chill had a more idea of a kind of more conversational setup, and we have sort of gone with that. We've always had guests on the show. It was his idea to have the rotating people on every show, and we would just talk about stuff. And me being a kind of a control freak, or someone who at least likes organization and planning, I just couldn't deal with the open-ended nature of it, and so I tended to enforce a certain degree of structure.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think in my head, the initial sort of idea was a little more almost open roundtable sort of thing, but I'm glad it's worked out this way. It's just, it fits our personalities better, and also it's very hard to get guests who can regularly come. I mean, Hypnotoad and Redna are both sort of real outliers. I mean, most people just can't be there every week for long stretches of time.
For 4 years. It is a very long time. So when you're trying to get all this set up, and I'm guessing you kind of touched on this just now as well, what roadblocks or problems did you come across? Because the product you put out now is very polished and very, it's probably the highest production value of all the podcasts. So what kind of things popped up that hindered you?
It wasn't at first, so I did get better. We had a lot of coaching from our friend Hip, and so I knew the basics.
Yeah.
Technically, getting all the actual stuff going, the recording, the publication, the website, all of that was actually quite easy. There was no problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
The only actual roadblock in our way was getting known, letting people know we're out there, and that's something we still pretty much failed at.
I think so.
We haven't tried. That's just the thing. Our marketing, we don't have any. We don't try. It's word of mouth, purely word of mouth.
And you will believe that if the product is good enough, people will come.
Which is sort of true.
We don't really believe that. Yeah, exactly.
Kinda.
It's true to a point.
People are still discovering the show. Have been playing since launch, so it's kind of weird that. But
Well, the one thing that this game doesn't really have, I mean, especially if you compare it to something like WoW, there's a lot of very in-your-face resources with WoW. Things like MMO Champion or WoWhead, or if you go back in the day, you had Thoughtbot, which I guess has a very different meaning these days. But it's always had the resources there, and in terms of podcasts, there's probably hundreds of them that you can choose from for that. So I think in this game where you do have a much smaller pool, I don't think people actually go looking for it, if you know what I mean. They don't really go and find these different things.
That's probably true.
There's no
but
real
we're glad
centralized.
if we get a new listener. So.
Aww. So in terms of the actual product you put out at the end, I guess this one is for Teo here. Mm-hmm. I know I've seen you messing around with you get all the files together, you get everyone to sync things up, and how technically difficult is it to get all of those things together? Like how time consuming? What kind of process do you go for to get the finished product so polished?
Once I've got all the audio files, I clean them up individually just to remove background noise, and then it's a matter of putting them all together. I use Adobe Audition, which is a fairly powerful editing tool, and then I just do a single editing pass to craft the show. And that's it. In terms of time, it would take maybe 2 to 3 times the duration. So
really? Wow.
We record for me Thursday morning, well, mid-morning these days, start at 10:30 a.m. in the morning, and it usually does take me the rest of the day with a few breaks for other things, but yeah, it's hours of work to put out the show. But I always get it done on the same day.
That's a huge commitment every single week for 4 years, though.
Yeah.
Do something productive with your time, Teo. Grow up, man. Jesus, what's wrong with you? Just do it in one take like me. It saves up all your time. You can just go back to bed and lie around then.
I do sometimes think about easing up on the editing, just, letting it through, letting all the ums and the gaps and everything else through, or doing whatever automated cleanup I can, but otherwise then just let it out. But
it does make quite a big difference.
Can't do it. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
It really does. I mean, the thing that I noticed that when I was on, when I listened to the show back, listening to the conversation was a lot smoother because the gaps and any kind of overlapping conversations were just removed. You could always hear what the one point put across. So yeah, it was very, very good. But I guess this next question ties into the amount of time you spend on it. So what kind of costs are involved with running a podcast like this?
Our audio equipment, hosting for the actual site, which has all our audio files on it, probably domain name registration, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Housekeeping things, really.
Not a huge
doing
amount,
a
just a
podcast
little
has
bit.
Always been cheap, though. So.
Yeah, but did you have to buy any mics to begin with? Like Chill, I can see you've got a fancy pop shield there for. I can't see what mic you've got. Is that a Blue Yeti or something?
It's a Samsung C01U.
Well, he's got a pro one, and Teo's got this
pretty solid one, yeah.
He's got a big, massive mic and a mixing board next to him. So, I mean, did you have that already, or did you buy that especially for it?
I bought this especially for the podcast.
I had this gear for a while, but I did have this vague idea of doing a podcast at some point. Yeah. But I never went anywhere until Chill actually motivated me to do it. So yeah, but I did buy it especially. And this is actually my second mixer. I've only just got it, so I have upgraded.
Okay. And what about revenue streams? Like, there's a fairly large, I would say, misconception that people make money off these types of shows and things and websites. So how many fat checks you cut into? I'm guessing you at least $10,000 a month with all those clicks.
That was true. I wouldn't have had to go back to work, would I?
Oh, that's right.
Specifically, we did get a little bit of stuff. We got donations from people. We've been asking for donations, so that's a little bit of money, but not much. And through Amazon, like the kind of affiliate programs you can do, a little bit through that. But recently, last few months, we joined Patreon along with a lot of other creators, and now we get maybe $100 per episode that we publish. So
that's not bad. I mean, that would be $400 a month. That's enough for basic equipment, I would say, at least, and to run costs.
And we paid for go to the last community cantina.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice of you.
Got to stay in New York City for the first time, so that was cool.
Well, that would be quite a lot.
Oh, we also there's a little outlay for prizes as well.
Things like cocktail coins and giveaways and that kind of stuff.
We've been giving away packs for ages.
What you should do, Tia, right? You should go for like clickbait titles for your podcast. You could do something like this guy went from body type 4 to body type 1 in 3 weeks. The gyms hate him. Find out his secret on this week's podcast. Just get all those listeners.
You'll note we're not sensationalist. So.
Just sensational. Do you receive any help from external bodies? So you have anyone maybe in your personal life who helps you set things up, or anyone from the community, or anyone from the game itself that helps you with the podcast in any way?
We've been running pretty independent. Now, BioWare, we've had a great relationship with Eric Musco since the beginning, pretty much. And obviously, Chill got invited to go down to BioWare to do the first ever demonstration of a player playing Strongholds. So doing the Galactic Stronghold stuff. And fun. I got to visit the studio when I was there in November last year for our Utini Cantina, when we all did the meetup in Las Vegas.
So confirmed, OotiniCast is sold out. Is that how it is, though?
We did have to pay our own way to buy to Austin.
Really?
But they did let us give us the actual tour, yeah.
I would have assumed they paid for that. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, they paid for Chill to go down. But
that was a different thing.
They were like, okay, so where's Chiller from? Oh, around the corner. Yeah, we'll pay for that. Then where's Teo? Australia. Yeah, you can walk, mate.
You can't really blame them. It ain't cheap.
It's very expensive.
Yeah. And they do also give us Tonfon codes and a few other things along the way. So
to be honest, anything we've ever asked for, they've done their absolute best to provide.
Can you ask them for cross servers, please, and to bring back 8-man ranked then, please? That would be fantastic. Yeah, thanks.
Within reason.
But you were speaking about having rotating guests and how difficult that is to have people on. Who would you say were your favourite all-time guests and why? We'll throw us out to Chill.
Oh, okay. Well, I still miss Hip. He's a lot of fun.
Hypnotoad, yeah.
Yeah, if anyone has heard those early episodes, he's just a ball to be around, and I still miss him. So yeah, he's probably el numero uno. But there's been a lot of fun folks. A lot of the people in the community are just really nice. So,
Teo,
I'd have to say the same. Hip was a really good friend for years. He was one of in our guild in WoW. We did lots of stuff together in the same raid team. So I do kind of miss him, but he was pretty much my favourite guest as well. Okay,
so on the topic of guests again, what do you think would make a good guest? What kind of qualities do you look for when you say that someone needs to be a good guest?
You answer this one, Chill.
Well, ultimately, I think we can help draw people out to some degree and make them more comfortable and help them to talk and so on. And if they're a little nervous or whatever, and they don't need to talk as much, that's fine. We've had folks who are absolutely outgoing and chatty from minute one, and then we've had other folks who maybe came back before they really felt comfortable with the microphone. So that's all good. Basically, as long as they're active in SWTOR in some way, that's really all we need. After that, it's just talking about whatever subject they're particularly interested in, whether that's costume design with SWTORista, or whether it's the GTN with SWTOR economics or Bill, and you just kind of go with whatever aspect of SWTOR that they're most interested in.
I think that made a very good show this week. I stayed up late this week and watched it when you had Bill and Andrew on at the same time. And it's very interesting because I think a lot of times people get like one expert on the show, but it adds so much more value when you have two, and they can actually have the discussion about varying points and explanations between. I think it adds a lot to the conversation. I was a bit disappointed they gave away all my secrets that I'm making money with at the moment, but other than that, it was pretty good. I was like typing in the chat, I started messaging them on Skype, shut up! Stop talking, Andrew. And my profits have plummeted. But when you have guests on, how would you cope with people? And I'm not sure if this has happened too many times on your show. It's happened a few times. Those with very strong and varying opinions or controversial opinions that are way different to your own.
Well, that's where the editing comes in. Of course, we've been on YouTube since episode 60 or so, but I'm pretty careful that if there's anything too out there, it never makes it to the live cut, the final cut.
Can you give me an example of something that wouldn't or hasn't made it?
Well, to be fair to Teo, he usually I mean, yeah, it can be controversial for other reasons, and he's cut it out. But a lot of times, it's when they they give some information that's demonstrably false, and then it's just gone.
That's true.
I guarantee you, if they say one thing about how PvP gearing works, but it just doesn't work that way, it's just not going to make the final episode.
I always do a fact check as I edit. So we said something during the show, I'll actually go and check just to make sure we got it right. And if it's wrong, I'll just cut that bit out. The other thing that I haven't actually had to do for a while is when someone goes like particularly negative and says something like attacking BioWare unfairly, like constructive criticism is fine.
Yeah.
If it's legitimate, but if it's just going too dark.
How much did you have to cut out when I was on, Teo? Was there any show?
You were on the best possible behaviour, Snave. You were fine.
I did behave myself, yeah. I was on good behaviour for Dad. I didn't swear. I think I swore once. But that was it, yeah. And in terms of when you're hosting the show as well, what do you think makes a good host for a podcast?
Go on, Chill.
All right. Ultimately, podcasting is it's a hobby. It's a labor of love. And I would say the most important thing is someone be interested in their subject, which is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because that you're not really going to start a podcast unless you have that. But then also to find your niche and make it fit your personality. If you're going for something that really requires like a super outgoing, party animal sort of host, you better be that kind of person, or else you're going to get burnt out hard and fast. It's going to get really, really sort of emotionally exhausting. So find your niche, find what you're good at, find this, and also to try to make the kind of podcast that you'd want to listen to. Like Teo is right. We wanted to know what was going on in SWTOR, and we wanted to know the actual. The actual news, and not the maybe right, maybe not news. So so that became a major focus of our show. So, and I would say also be open to criticism, especially from folks who do know something about podcasting, because we learned a lot from Hypnotoad. We learned a lot from other folks who have their own podcasts who have come on. For example, it was Hip who actually had us move from pre-recording to actually having a live show at all. That was very much outside of our wheelhouse, and but now it's an integral part of the show. So absolutely,
he pushed us so hard for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting point you make there about finding your niche and doing what you want to do, because it's something I notice very frequently with streamers. Not specifically for Star Wars, just generally speaking, where the ones who are successful tend to be the ones who take their personality and build around that, rather than trying to make their personality fit a preconceived notion of what success looks like. I've seen plenty of people who've done it the other way around, who just end up crashing and burning, because it's quite difficult to put on a fake persona for multiple hours at a time without some cracks coming through, and some kind of hypocrisy along the way. But in terms of the show, what would you summarize as being your highlights and lowlights? So we'll give Chill the highlights because he's Captain Positive, and we'll give Teo the lowlights because he's got a festering monster inside him. I can just see it in his eyes.
Oh gosh, there's been tons of highlights. Well, going to Vegas and actually meeting everyone in person was probably highlight number one. Going to Austin was way up there, and meeting the dev team and the community team. New York was amazing. Some of the interviews with some of the devs are also good. I mean, we do the regular show every week, but there's lots of weeks where we have put out interviews, and a lot of those have been interesting.
Yeah.
And for example, I can't remember the name of the artist, but Red did a really amazing interview with one of the actual official Star Wars artists.
Is this something Gorman? Have I got that wrong?
I can't remember.
Dave Dorman.
Dave Dorman.
Dave Dorman. Thank you. Yeah, and that was incredible, because that's
he was
such an interesting
as
subject.
A guest.
Yeah, and Red did a really good job with him. So, there's been lots of great moments like that.
Okay, Teo.
Sorry. One other one was about 50 shows, a little more than 50 shows in, I was running out of the Star Wars trivia questions.
Okay.
And we had this one episode where I decided to give tips instead. Just, I can't come up with a question this week, so here's some tips. And that just rolled right into the tip of the week. And all of a sudden, boom, we had a new segment. So that was fun too. So sometimes just rolling with it. Yes, exactly. We have this running gag about Star Wars humor and how awful it usually is.
Some of the Star Wars jokes are pretty bad.
I think all of the Star Wars.
Some like 99%. Yeah.
We've had a pretty big sample now, and it's not good.
Do you know the Christmas one? Do you know the one Darth Vader says to Luke, "I know what you're having for Christmas."
I can feel your presence.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, they're terrible.
How does Luke Skywalker shave? With a light shaver. Oh. Yeah, thanks for that facepalm there, Teo. Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Yeah.
So, Teo, what about you? The lowlights?
Oh, there are none. It's an overall 100% positive experience.
If you want me to go back to lowlights then, and this kind of dovetails into something you kind of were touching on earlier. I do personally, I don't know why, it's my personality. I do have issues with controversy, not because I have problems with the controversy, but because I have problems with how people react to controversy, and I don't really like all the negativity that surrounds it. I'd rather have an open discussion about even very controversial topics, but the worrying about the the blowback and the pushback and everything is I find very annoying. So when we've had folks on the show who have had their own very strong opinions, I'm happy to talk with them, and I'm happy to go over it with them, even when they disagree. Even when I disagree with them, and it's only like dealing with it afterwards that really kind of gets to me.
When we get some feedback, not that we've actually got much negative feedback at all in the whole run of the show. Very little.
Only one bit of hate mail, yeah.
No, it's been more than a handful,
but not much.
Literally a handful.
You're welcome, Teo.
One of the other, I guess you could call it a lowlight, is where there is a content drought, where there's just nothing to talk about. And we do our best, and somehow we've still managed to fill at least an hour. Yeah, it's amazing what you can talk about.
Isn't that where some of the Star Wars humor started?
Oh, probably. Yeah.
A few weeks before the expansion.
One thing that's continuously impressed me, because the main reason I watched this one's show was I wanted to see what you were going to talk about, because there's nothing going on. The game is kind of at a standstill. There really isn't anything going on at all. I wanted to see how you would cope with this level of content drought. Are you going to talk about doing heroics, or what is there to do? Because once you do that once, then obviously you can't really go back and do it again so much. But I was quite impressed. You took it to an economical point of view, and you had something else here. And I'm wondering, what are you going to do next week? Companion buffs and nerfs? I guess that's a hot topic right now.
Companion gate part. Yeah, well, that is obviously the big story at the moment. Nerf buff. Yeah, we kind of predicted that they would buff them again because they clearly went too far. Yeah. But, whatever.
I guess we should be thankful for their sledgehammer balancing, because it constantly gives us talking points.
This is true.
Okay, if you could go back in time and give one of yourselves a piece of advice before you started, what would it be?
Relax. I was way stressed when we were doing the show initially, honestly.
Really? Okay.
Getting really nervous about it every time. It was, a bit onerous, but at this point, it's a lot easier. You just get used to anything, given enough time, as it turns out.
It is funny how your perspective changes over time. I remember the first time I went on TORCommunity, and I listened to TORCommunity back when it first started. I used to listen to it on the bus on my way to work. It was kind of a big deal for me, and I was absolutely terrified. I was like, don't be an idiot. Just don't speak. Just think before you talk, and don't insult anyone. Don't say anything dumb. And it went absolutely fine. But now, towards the end of it, I'm going on there. I'm just like, whatever. That guy's an idiot, and it's just it really doesn't add anything to be nervous. Maybe I should be more nervous. Actually, that sounds like a good thing for me to do. All of those things, I should do them more often.
Yeah, but for me, that's what it was. Just roll with it. It doesn't matter. Just be yourself and let it happen.
I think be yourself is some of the most dangerous advice you can give anyone in the world, Teo. What about you, Chill?
I would say get ready and just live with the fact that you're going to have to hear your own voice a lot. Because I've always hated my own voice and still do, even multiple hundred episodes later.
Yeah.
But at least I'm used to it now, and I've kind of gotten over it.
Okay, we just got a question from chat, which I think is probably a relevant one here. You guys intentionally don't cover any data mine content, like whatsoever. You only stick to what you know is being true. I guess this kind of goes back to what you said earlier. But is there any other specific reason why you don't mention data mine content?
No, that's it. Basically, I suppose it is out of respect for BioWare, we don't want to mess with their marketing plans. Mm-hmm. Now, there is a counter argument here that information wants to be free and that if the news is out there, it should be reported, which we could absolutely do, but we just rather not. BioWare would prefer that the data mine content isn't really shouted to the from the rooftops, and we just go along with that. That's it. We haven't been threatened or anything like that, but it's just our personal choice.
Right. And beyond the burning the bridges things, when it comes to story, I actually want to experience most of it myself anyway. I don't want to have it spoiled for me right ahead of time.
So as a brief counterpoint here, I don't want to talk about data mining too much, but as a brief counterpoint, do you not think that as kind of veterans of the community with a vast and wide breadth of experience, given your opinions on the hypotheticals, the data mine content could actually add and positively influence any changes that happen within the game?
I suppose that's potentially true, but we just don't want to go there. And honestly, there's usually not enough time between when it's data mined and when it goes live to really influence its direction, so it's kind of moot, really. Okay.
And Chill?
Yeah, I can't really add anything more to Teo's answer there.
Okay. Another question, and this was one I planned to ask you anyway, so I may as well ask it now. Have you ever been recognized in your normal life by someone who's watched the show or played the game or anything else?
Oddly enough, yes.
Oddly enough,
I did get a message from someone who saw me at a local market. Surprised the hell out of me, but yeah, that was a one time.
It happened to me exactly once as well.
Yeah.
It was at a restaurant downtown Portland, and someone came up and was like, "Do I know you as Chill online?" It's like, yeah, that's me.
You should have just,
we had lunch together. He was nice.
You should have just denied it vehemently. Just say, no, man, that's not me. You've got it. You got me mixed up with someone else. That's definitely not me. I think if anyone recognized me in real life, I would probably deny it. I would just, I don't know. No, what's the Star Wars? I don't know anything about your Star Wars is or anything. Just flat out deny everything. And the last question on this segment really is, what advice would you give to anyone thinking of starting their own podcast or just generally getting more involved with the SWTOR community?
You've got a good answer to this one, Sean.
Well, I think ultimately it will sort of happen naturally. If you're really that interested, it will, you'll find ways to get involved. And believe me, you will not actually get a podcast out unless you are really into it. Yeah. Because there is a lot of setting things up and figuring out all the tech details and all the websites and all the all the marketing and how are you going to do it and everything else. There's so much to it that if you're either going to do a podcast or you're not.
Yeah. Okay.
The best advice you can get is to get some help with the technical stuff so that you've got that more or less in place.
Okay. And would you say that maybe recording it live as you do now is a better way of starting out, or do you think that privately and editing is the best way to start it out?
It would depend on
a reflection of my personality, but I'd say do it privately first and see how it turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ultimately, when you've got the podcast up and running, you can do it whichever way makes more sense for that podcast. I would say most of them actually will work better live, but there could be some out there where you want it to be like a very private conversation, between two people, have some sort of intimate interview sort of feel to it or something. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say when you're like doing a test run or a test episode, Yeah. I don't know if I would be even willing to do that one live.
Okay. So I think that pretty much covers everything about the podcast. Was there anything you guys wanted to talk about that I've missed on this?
Don't think so.
Okay.
If anyone wants to find out more, there's always our Utini Inception video that was done
true.
when we hit $100 on Patreon. But you have to be a patron to actually watch it.
Hold on a second.
We'll release it eventually.
Aren't you doing a documentary about how OotiniCast started?
That was it. Yep.
That was it.
So it's done. It's available.
Is it available? I did not know that.
Patrons only.
Patreon, yeah.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Classic Teo with his pay gates. You got to pay for the content. Nice one, Teo. I'll try and torrent it, I guess. I'm sure I can find this out.
One day we will actually release it for everyone.
Right. It'll be released at some point.
For now, it's exclusive content. Yeah.
I can't believe you're pay gating your content, Teo. For shame, sir. For shame.
It's the only thing. Come on.
Oh, speaking of like all the drama and stuff that you kind of avoid, Chill, did you see the fallout when Miner said that the people who donated to TORCommunity would get like a day early access to some of the Data Man content? Oh my days. Oh my god, I've never seen anything like it. It was rabid.
I missed that, but that does sound pretty crazy.
It wasn't even the content, it was just him showing his workings out as he did things, like his calculations that they could read on the forums. And it was just,
wow.
Now, as silly as it sounds, that sounds pretty reasonable to me. Why not?
Well, yeah, I guess so, but yeah.
I guess when you're hanging your hat on getting the information out there first, then having first and really, really first really kind of does become an issue.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe it's a different thing. So the next one is more about the SWTOR community as a whole. So again, your interactions with them, your perceptions of them. This is both around what you do in the podcast community and also in the game as well. So it's like kind of all-encompassing when I say community. But how would you describe your interactions with the community as a whole? Like everything all-encompassing, both with the kind of the devs going to Austin, the people you meet when you go to restaurants, Chill. How would you describe your interactions overall?
Well, overall positive, of course, for the most part. There's been occasional like little dust ups and stuff.
Yeah.
When we accidentally step on someone's toes, we always try to make it up as best we can, for the most part. And I'm I'm sure someone out there is going to listen to that and think, is that really true? But that's always the case. I mean, ultimately, it's a bunch of great people, and we're all having fun doing the same thing. And for the most part, it's great. But everyone who has a podcast and so on is a personality. And personalities will sometimes clash, but yeah, for the most part, it's all good, and we're all happy to be guests on each other's podcasts. And there's the GGC and so on. So, yeah. I mean, 99% of it is just it's just easy and fun.
Let me just spin off on this for a second. Then, so how do you guys handle criticism? I don't mean or the last show your audio was a little bit low. What I mean is, the whole kind of thing like, you guys are idiots, you got it all wrong, this is the correct thing. You know exactly what I mean.
We've seen very little of it, to be honest. Okay. So,
right.
You take it at face value.
Yeah. I mean, you're either going to like us or you're not. And if our personalities aren't for you, there's other podcasts out there, which is great. Yeah. I mean, usually, if there's anything sort of negative, it's because despite all our efforts, some piece of incorrect information does come through, or at least something that someone thinks is incorrect, comes through. But yeah,
and even then, no one's particularly harsh that we've had to deal with.
No.
Okay. So, do you feel any pressure to act in a certain way? Or do you even consider yourself as like public figures, and hold yourself to a different standard, Teo?
To some extent, yes. I mean, internet public, in terms of being on a podcast.
Well, that's global, Teo. I mean, that's everywhere. That's more so than being just in Australia.
Yeah, well, we're under no delusions about being in any way truly public, but yeah, in the way that you actually have a lot of people actually listening to your voice, yeah, I do feel a certain pressure to act in a certain way, be a good public figure, a good representative for our show and the game overall, because it's in all of our interests that more people play And so we want to be positive and constructive.
So no raging at people in PvP then, is there? No learn to play noobs, no anything along those times?
Well, that's different. Yeah, it's no holds barred at that point. But generally...
What about you, Chill?
Yeah, I feel much the same way. In PvP, that's the one reason, like on my stream, that I still have the adult language warning is for my occasional forays into PvP, because I cannot completely stop myself from swearing.
Okay.
And in fact, if it goes really bad, then it's the dam breaks loose. It gets pretty bad. But yeah, no, I definitely feel like most of the time when I'm streaming or on the podcast itself that that we're I mean, people are, if someone's like using podcasts to sort of determine, hey, should I be taking a look at this game? Yeah. I don't want to be the guy who is like, wow, these people are like really negative and really horrible and and also total jerks, and I'm not going to play this game. Let's go find another game, because there's still plenty of games out there, even MMOs. So yeah. A little bit. I mean, on the other hand, there's no like major changing or massaging of opinions or anything. It's mostly about like language and consideration of others, in a polite sort of way than anything else.
Does it make any difference that you have kids or things like that you wouldn't want them to kind of find this archive of you swearing at someone on the internet somewhere? Does that play a factor at all?
No.
Oh. A little bit, but my son has heard me swear before, unfortunately. So that particular horse has left the barn.
Is your son on your team in PvP going, "Oh, Dad, come on, Dad, God, what's wrong with you? Learn to peel. What are you doing?"
Yeah, but well, he would be. He actually did give SWTOR a try. Unfortunately, it didn't stick, so he's not an MMO guy. But I play other games with him, and yeah, I definitely, even when things are going badly, if my son's with me playing, I definitely am able to bite my tongue a lot better. So yeah.
Okay. And I guess this is the important question here, and I want to ask you both this one. Do you consider yourselves role models?
Role models.
Role models, yeah.
Well, not particularly. Just I've always believed that you should act in the way that best reflects how you truly are. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be fake.
What if you're a horrible person? Giving someone like me that advice is just terrible.
Well, I would suggest then for people who don't like the way they are to change. But for me, at least, I see no reason not to just be myself. And if there's anything wrong with that, well, tough to some extent, but I'll certainly try and improve if it's actually bad. But, yeah.
Okay. Chill?
Lead by example.
I'm happy to work on myself as a role model for my son. For the public, I like the idea of public figure where I'm, putting my best face forward. But I don't know, role model is such a strong idea.
Okay. This kind of ties on to something I wanted to talk about later on anyway. But do you think it's reasonable for the community to hold you to a higher standard because you are a public figure? You think that that's an entitlement, that is a kind of an unwritten social contract? Because you put yourself out in the public view, therefore you are expected or to be held to a higher standard?
Well, I sort of behave that way anyway, so it almost doesn't matter if the community does or not.
Yeah, so, I agree with that.
It's self-fulfilling.
They can if they want. It makes no difference to me. I'm going to behave the way I'm going to behave, and my personal morality and ethics aren't going to change as a result of that. If
it helps to you're my role model in podcasting. you and Rob.
I'm not sure it helps. Right.
It is good. It's good to have someone to kind of look up to, in a sense, because you can. I think all the parts that I am weak at, you are strong at. So it's kind of good to look how someone else does it, to work on the parts that you are. It's a lot like if you play in the game and, let's say, for example, I'm really bad at defending. It makes sense that you watch someone who's good at defending, so you can learn how to do it a little bit better. So I think in that sense, you both come across quite well.
Thank you.
How would you feel? This is something which has kind of bothered me historically. When people say you have a duty of care towards the community with regards to the opinions and information that you portray. I mean, I'm guessing you're going to say that, yes, that you do agree with that.
In terms of keeping it accurate and positive, or
whichever, however you want to interpret it, because I mean, the reason this annoys me is that it was implied before that because a person was talking about data mining, that they had a duty of care to make sure that they portrayed everything accurately and correctly, and yada yada yada. And my kind of counter argument has always been, this is a person who does this in their spare time for fun. This is not a professional. This is like a guy in their bedroom with a webcam, and that is the extent of their expertise. And if you are reading more into it, then that's more your issue than theirs.
That sums it up pretty well. Yeah, but that's everything in real life. People do the best they can. If you happen to be paying for a service, you do expect a certain level of professionalism in the product, for example.
Yeah.
But we are doing this, well, not quite for free anymore, given that we do have our patrons.
You're making that bank now, aren't you, Teo?
Yeah, it's so much money rolling in it. But no, I don't think it's reasonable to. I think you should do the best you can.
Yeah.
You shouldn't deliberately mislead people.
Yeah.
And if you're doing a shoddy job, then people will probably work that out pretty quick and not be interested anymore. So it takes care of itself, really.
And I definitely feel, I definitely feel we have almost no duty of care towards opinions. Information, yes.
Yeah.
But we've had, like I say, we've had controversial folks on before, and I'm happy to have them on. And yeah, you get a little blowback on it, but that's not duty of care. I don't care about that.
Okay. And because you've done so much stuff with the podcast, I know you've flown across to, or you've seen the studios. Is there any other opportunities you've had granted to you as a result for your works and efforts with the community? Like anything at all, it could be an invite to a group, it could be a pet someone's given to you, anything at all.
That we can admit to without breaking NDA? No.
Confirmed. OotiniCast on all the betas. Yeah.
Well, we were able to talk about previous betas that we've been in.
Yeah. But anything else in terms of?
No.
No.
Honestly, no. That's okay. Honestly, don't expect anything.
I like the idea of Teo getting on a plane, sitting down to fly to Austin, and then the air host saying to them, "Oh yeah, you Teo from let's bump you, let's get you up to first class. Let's get you some champagne, Teo. You deserve the finest things in life."
That is a wonderful fantasy. So,
Okay, so what's the?
I did get the signed GSF posters. That was pretty awesome. The devs
when they
signed a GSF poster.
When they messed us up with the Las Vegas Cantina, where they moved the date right towards the end after we'd bought our tickets to fly from Australia.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you about that actually, because that's something that irked me slightly. Because in that instance, you really did throw your weight around as people who have a following.
Did we?
I think you levered. Oh yeah, you 100% did. Yeah. It was. I mean,
I think we made our displeasure known. That's for sure. But there was a lot to be. I mean, the reason that we had set it on a particular weekend was so that we could actually meet up with each other and then go all see the SWTOR Cantina together. That was the whole point. So yeah,
I understand the situation that you're in, and I don't necessarily disagree with what you did. I mean, I probably would have done it a lot worse. But my kind of point at the time was they always said that these are subject to change. Always said that. So then when it changed,
it's true. It's true. They also ask who's come the longest. They always ask who's come the furthest in these things, and it's always it's almost never just from across the country. It's usually different countries. So it's like people are definitely planning these things ahead of time. So it's good that they've actually upped their game and have now made it a policy where until they've absolutely confirmed the location and the time and the date, they're not going to announce it at all. So
that's a result
historically,
of you
those dates
the
had been pretty accurate.
Yes, at least to the weekend. Yeah.
Okay. So when you work with the community, what has been the hardest thing about working with the SWTOR community as a whole?
Well, given we don't really rely on the Star Wars community, we've more or less done our own thing.
Yeah.
In terms of Bioware, just the information flow is actually generally pretty good. In all honesty, the last 4 years, they've kept the information flowing. the kind of drought before Knights of the Fallen Empire was a little bit unusual, to be honest, because we've obviously been here the whole time, and so we've seen it all. And yeah, this is the first time there's really been not much.
That drought was pretty spectacular, but I would probably disagree with the point that the information flow has been consistently good. I don't think it's been consistently good. And the one issue I had with it this time, more so than the previous times, was they said specifically that they would work on the information flow for this expansion, and then it didn't happen.
They said a lot of things.
Yep. Okay.
But again, I don't believe anyone is lying to us from BioWare, honestly. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure every time they say something, they have every intention, the best intention of doing whatever they've said.
Yeah.
But sometimes real life just doesn't work out like that. Yeah. So they do their best. They're not lying to us.
I agree with that as well, but I think there's two different ways to look at it. One is, are they intentionally misleading, and the other one is, are they just incompetent? So it's either one or the two. And when you have so many problems over such an expansive amount of time, it's kind of hard to keep forgiving and saying, well, they don't mean to do it. They don't mean to do it. I get that they don't mean to do it, but they still keep doing it. So it's a bit awkward.
It is frustrating for us as the consumers of the product they're producing, but we are talking about an extremely complex system here, and also a big organization behind them. And if you've had any real dealings in real life with big companies and the kind of bureaucracy, etc.
I understand the issues from a practical point of view. I've never worked for a company where two departments spoke to each other ever in my entire life. It's just like herding cats most of the time. So I get why that happens. The issue I have is there's other games who do it, and they do it in a much better way. And there have been instances in this game where it's worked pretty well when they had the correct resources to do it. So I think sometimes we give them... There's a bit of an all-encompassing excuse that gets thrown on a lot. And it's two things. The first one is it's a big company. Things happen, deal with it. And the other one is, well, the game's complicated. Deal with it. And I kind of reject both of those as legitimate arguments.
Well, there is a third point that it's been clear that ever since they went free to play, and they haven't really made a secret of this, I wouldn't say they've been doing it on the cheap, but they've certainly been running with a lean team. EA basically directed them, you must make money. Yeah. And here, we're not going to give you any more, was the sense that we were given back when they went free to play. Yeah. And so we can only expect so much. They're doing the best they can with what they have.
See, again, I disagree with this one. I really strongly disagree with this one. So let me give you a parallel example here. So let's say that your TV company, who you pay a service to each month, they downscale their customer services, because essentially that's what the CM team is. It's like customer services / marketing. And you then call up because you've got a problem. And they say, oh, I'm sorry, Teo, we've actually got rid of most of our staff, so now you've got to wait for an hour. Is that okay?
If it's okay or not is really what it comes down to, whether you want to keep paying your subscription. So if you don't like the service you're receiving, you stop paying them. So is it okay? Well, that's for you to decide with your money, basically.
So you're saying vote with your wallet. It's something I wish more people would do. I really, really agree with that. I think in this game especially, there's been a lot of problems that have happened for a very, very long time. And I really wish people would just... I think if people had drawn a line in the sand previously, then it would have not really gone this way, apparently.
Those kind of threshold things, it all comes down to your personal experience and are you getting enough value for what you're putting into it. And that's individual. And do you really want people to just march out in a big sulk? I don't know. Okay. I know some of our fellow raiders chose not to subscribe for a while because they didn't like the direction the game was going in. Yeah. So, and that's fair. I absolutely no problem with that. It's the right thing to do.
And that's what you should do. You should respond by unsubbing and making sure you fill out the reason why you unsubbed. Because eventually something... Yeah. Okay. If you could make one change to the community as a whole, what would it be?
Provide better publicity for podcasts.
That's
a little selfish, but BioWare have gone out of their... Well, I wouldn't say they've gone out of the way to avoid. They just haven't. They haven't advertised all of us, anyone in the community. And there's kind of complex IP legal reasons for that.
There really isn't. That's such a ludicrous thing. I've had this said to me several times, and it's just blatantly false. I'm sure there's a lot of bureaucracy you've got to go through, and there's time management you've got to squeeze it in somewhere. But to say that you can't do it for these reasons is false.
I wouldn't say you can't do it, but it would be complicated and hard for them to do, and therefore they don't. And honestly, I can't blame them. As soon as you start involving lawyers, things get really, really hard.
But they've done it. I mean, this is the thing that I don't understand, is that these things have historically happened. So to say that you can't do it then seems a very weird argument to me.
They seem to do it in brief bursts, but for the most part, they don't.
Okay, so let's put us over the chill for a second. What would you like to see them do in terms of helping people like us?
Oh, helping people like us. Well, one thing I think is that we've touched on this on the podcast a few times is just to expand the reach of their marketing. And we know that that they have to pay the money to Lucasfilm, and they want to sort of rely on the Star Wars name. But at some point, it'd be nice to expand, to get the word out a little bit better, and actually put out some TV spots or something that would.
Can you imagine if they played the Deceive trailer at the start of the new Star Wars films? Oh, that'd be good.
That would be amazing.
It would.
That would be amazing.
Now, they talked about in their last earnings call with EA how they rely on just general Star Wars marketing from Disney, etc., for the new movie, and just hope that people sort of come across the game as just along the way.
One thing that I've talked about quite extensively, really, on my stream is how by them not promoting the people who promote the game, like you do for an example here, it's kind of I don't see how that's a good idea, because you have people who have consistently churned out content for multiple hours every single week for 4 years, and if people were aware or more aware of what you did, then surely that would it's free advertising for them on a weekly basis.
Yeah, but is it? We're preaching to the choir. We have audiences who are already playing the game, already know about the game, obviously. That's why they listen. And maybe we do pick up some new people who will try the podcast just because they've heard about the game and they do want to hear about what it's like. But for the most part, it's an established audience. So it's in their interest to find new people, like the streamers for all the general BioWare games, like the people who stream Dragon Age.
It isn't. So yeah, I agree with that. I thought that was a smart move to go for those types of players. Like, I've forgotten the lady's name, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've forgotten her too.
The Lady of Sorrows. No, that was from the game. Lady Insanity.
Lady Insanity, yeah, that's the one.
Lady Insanity.
I thought that was quite clever because you have a pre-established player base from different games, and it all ties in very nicely. Same thing with Towley. He streams a lot of MMOs, so it's a good way to pull them across, and you kind of had to explain that to a lot of people. But another thing would be, and again, this is something they did once. They did it terribly, but they did it once, where they actually paid for Snickers to be on the front page of Twitch. So he had a colossal amount of traffic just from having that there for the evening. But it was done so poorly that following day there was really no benefit from doing it. You would expect someone who garnered that many views, even on a short amount of time, would then have some kind of pull, and then the next day was actually back down to 30 again. So it was kind of, they missed a trick on it with a lot of different things. But don't you think that they could do that on a more regular basis? And I don't mean pay in Twitch for front page stuff, because that costs a lot of money. But let's say, for example, you were doing OotiniCast this week, and Eric Musco says, okay, what we're going to do, we've watched your podcast for the last 4 years, it's great, it's going to be your anniversary, yada, yada, yada. We're going to host you on the SWTOR page. So all they do is they tweet that out, and they host you. It's completely free of charge, it takes no effort from them whatsoever. The only thing they have to worry about is the content that you produce, and you have a 4-year track record of, again, pretty solid content that isn't biased or negative or sweary or, PG-13 type of stuff. Do you not think that would be a kind of a no-brain success for them? I mean, it seems to be so obvious to me.
Probably be a little trouble getting through their management to make that happen, but you're right. It would be a good thing.
It'd be a no-brain success for us, that's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Chill would be like, yeah, ton phone cards for everyone. It's raining ton phones. It's like throwing them out. Yeah. Okay.
Should they do more stuff like that? Yes, but again, going back to their lean team and all our interactions with BioWare are more us asking for things rather than being given them off the bat from them. So
maybe be more proactive. Would that be a legitimate thing to say?
It'd be nice, but maybe it's just impractical for them.
I get what you're saying with this, but at the end of the day, I think we have to hold the community management team responsible for managing the community. I think saying that they're on a short team doesn't necessarily... It's a reason as to why it happens. I understand that it's valid. I just feel that they could still do a lot more with not much effort, personally. That's my...
You should bring this up with Eric when you bring
it's not like I've never mentioned it to him before. I think I've mentioned it about 4 or 5 times, but it's not news to him. But let's say that... Well, let's do a bit of role reversal here, Teo. If you were given the job of community manager, you must go for the day. You might have to grow out a soul patch to pull off the full look. But what main change would you make immediately? What would you do instantly?
There would be a far more direct communication. That's the kind of thing I actually really enjoy, which is reaching out to anyone who is interested in that kind of thing through whatever avenues that are available to me, and being really reactive to, that kind of thing I can do. So that's what I would do, is just establish communication with all the players out there at the moment, and then keep that communication going.
How would you respond then? Because this is something that I've heard mentioned a few times, is people who either stream or do a podcast, they're very, very low volume, as in it might happen sporadically, it might not really pull in many numbers or views, and they always complain that they don't get support, and that's why they have this issue. Do you think that's a fair criticism, or do you believe they do need to filter the most bang for their buck, so to speak?
Well, that goes without saying, really. If they're low volume, there's a reason for that. You probably give them a chance. Give them a spotlight at least once or twice. But if they're not interesting, they're not interesting. So there's only so much you can do.
Chill, what would you do? You walk into the office, you are now Eric Musco. What do you do?
Gosh.
After you've eaten the sandwich.
Yeah. I think if you're the community manager, he's not so much on the marketing end of things. So you have to reach out to the people who are already interested in, and there's really no one more interested in the game than the people who are doing podcasts and streaming and have their own websites and all that stuff. So, anything to get the communication rolling on that is just really helpful, because anytime like that they talk to SWTOR or Dolphy or anyone. That's not just touching that one person. That's then branching out to anyone who uses those sites.
Yeah, so. I agree. Okay, so how would you let's do a quick summarize here. How would you summarize in a nice little soundbite how you feel BioWare's treatment of the community is overall? That's not a baited question. I'm interested in what you want to say. And we'll go with Teo, because I can see the cogs going in his brain. I don't want to give him time to think.
Well, reactive.
Reactive? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that sums it up, and
I agree with that. Yeah.
I have talked about why that is.
And Chill?
Yeah, I would say generally good, and then some sort of oddly spotty sometimes. It's like sometimes they're amazing. Yeah. And then sometimes we don't hear a whole lot from them occasionally. So just
the one thing that shocked me. Sorry, go on.
More regular would be awesome.
The one thing that shocked me was when Courtney took over the community management side of things. She only did it for about 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah,
she was really good for those 2 weeks.
We had more contact within those 2 weeks than the previous 2 years, which
just about.
It is brilliant, but it also kind of irritated me, because I kind of then thought, well, why you can't make the argument about manpower anymore, because this person, you've always had that body there. That's if anything, they had less people because Pocket had just left and she'd taken over, and yet more was done in that brief space of time. I think maybe it's a quality more than quantity issue, or maybe they need someone specifically to do that role that she
probably
did.
The answer. If that is her role, and she started doing it seriously, and it was turning out really well, but she was dedicated to it. Yeah. Though she's probably doing other stuff behind the scenes as well. And now, once she left...
What we're saying is, Teo, Courtney, stop following your dreams. We all know you worked really hard to become a writer at BioWare, but just stop it. Where's your priorities? Sort yourself out. You're so selfish, Courtney. we have talked about this a little bit earlier on, but I want to really get into the gritty side of it. Like, how hard is it for you guys to continuously produce a show that lasts usually, like 2 hours, I would say, as a minimum?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Or maybe the edited
in terms of the
shortly.
recording, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
The final product is anywhere between hour 15, hour 20.
Okay. How hard is it to do that on a weekly basis, though? I mean, that must be... What I'm saying is what you do to make sure that you have a show every single week.
Make sure I've done sufficient preparation that there's at least a few things to talk about. And if it's going to be a short show, it will be a short show. And I used to worry about this. I really stressed about making sure we did have enough things in the rundown to talk about. But I've got a backup now in terms of just general Star Wars news, especially with the movie coming and everything else. So that's what I fall back to, just to fill the time, if we needed to. But honestly, we very, very rarely have to do that.
Chill?
Right. Well, we've got a lot of... Besides the news, we do have, the tip of the week, and we talk about what we did our weeks, and you have these other like little segments, and it tends to flesh things out anyway. And if we have a really slow week, then what we also have is we have, I don't know, half dozen or so Starlight Digest topics that are sort of like potentially ongoing that could be plugged in at any time. If we had a really short show, we could just pull out a topic and start talking about it. So.
Okay. Do you feel that part of the reason why you're so able to do this is because you have, I'm saying like natural chemistry, but you know what I mean? Like you've been together for a very long time, so you're able to have conversations like friends would, and then you can just typically just put that to a recording, and that's your show. Do you think that helps a lot, or is it?
It's essential. It's absolutely essential. Yeah. If you didn't have that, if you were just kind of tolerating each other,
tolerating each other, well, okay.
You just wouldn't last. So you need that.
Well, that's one of the things I really like doing on TORCommunity as well. Like when you had like May and Minor and Road together, they just liked talking about the game, and a lot of the time, even if you didn't have a particularly meaty topic, you would go off on so many different tangents that it would still make for entertaining listening, which is a good thing, I think. So the next segment and the final segment is we're going to move on to the game itself. So everything Star Wars. Let's get your thoughts on this one. So I mean, you've mentioned that you like Star Wars and you played MMOs, but outside of that, was there any kind of main appeal for this game for you, or is it just it's a Star Wars MMO, I'm going to play it?
It was what really drew me in was the cinematics. To be honest,
God, they were so good. They were so good.
Yeah, but even so, just playing through the game, seeing your character in a way that in other MMOs you don't.
Yeah.
In the various, I mean, it was all fully voiced, so we had those cutscenes all over. I mean, as you were doing the various quests, missions, and that just somehow made it more special, more bringing you into the experience. Now, I could argue that at the way they've taken it is far, far too far in that direction.
Okay.
But
we'll come
at
back
the
to that in a
time
second,
where it started, that was what brought me in.
It's an interesting point because this is something which has had a wider effect on me than I thought, because it has literally ruined other MMOs for me. I tried playing WoW again the other day, and I mean I think WoW is a fantastic game, and objectively speaking, it's a much better game than Star Wars. But it's all
in some ways.
It's just go and click this, go and kill 10 boars, come back and see me, and you're like, oh, this is what's happened here? The leveling in SWTOR, and I really hate leveling, is actually pretty good. You know, it's a pretty good experience. I think that's definitely the strength of the game. It's kind of unfortunate that the new direction has about 5 hours worth of leveling, and then there you go. But what about you, Chill? Is there anything else that kind of drew you into this game?
Yeah, well, obviously, once you get past the Star Wars thing, and it's like finding out just some of the interesting details, like the companions, how they would have their own stories and they would be with you. That was interesting to me. But yeah, the fully voiced and the cutscenes are pretty amazing, because like if you're playing WoW, most of the time you're getting your missions from either someone who's talking, but they don't really talk. They just put up a little wall of text for you to read, and most people don't even read it. Or they go to a board and grab a mission. And then once in a while, you're playing World of Warcraft and you do MFing Wrathgate, and it's amazing. And it's like there's this whole, like there's this huge cutscene, and you get to see, the battle between, the undead and the Lich King, and and the Stormwind people, and it's just and the orcs, and it's like, and that was, and those little pieces are amazing. And then SWTOR is like basically that 1 to 50 and beyond. And it's like, it's really hard to go back into a more grindy MMO after you've done all these amazing cutscenes all the way through with pro quality voice actors, and it's just incredible.
I'm guessing that you didn't take part in this because of when you said you joined WoW, but have you heard of the Gates of Anchorage sequence they did?
I had heard about it, but I had not taken part in that, but I know about that one. Yeah, where it like practically overloaded the servers and stuff.
Yeah, I remember logging in at 3 o'clock in the morning because they were opening the gates up, and you were literally like, it was a bit like PvP in SWTOR is normally, to be honest with you. It wasn't that much different. It was like 3 FPS going on. But it was just a fantastic server-wide event where everyone handed in their stacks of linen to open these gates up and cause an event. I'd like to see something like that in Star Wars. It's probably very difficult to do. I watched the Q&A panel from the WoW guys recently in BlizzCon, and the guy who wrote that event, and he did the Undercity one as well,
that's cool.
Was saying how stressful that was. And he was saying, like, will you ever do it again? He's like, well, hopefully not. I really pray I don't have to. But they're such epic things. They really do write the story. Like they create the narrative for the whole game. People will always remember those things. But with SWTOR, so you mentioned the story stuff. Other than that, what are the game modes you prefer the most, and why? We'll throw this out to Chill.
Oh, okay. Well, ultimately, it's my friends that keep me, really interested in the game. I mean, I love leveling and all that, but it's sort of the operations that kind of keeps me going from week to week to week.
Yeah.
So it's operations first, and then leveling. And then it's kind of a close, right behind it is PvP, but unfortunately, with the amount of time it takes, especially right at the beginning of an expansion, I don't end up with all that much time to PvP. But I love PvP too, so I just don't do as much of it as I would necessarily like to. So. Okay,
and Teo?
I haven't had much time to game generally recently, so. Yeah, basically. So the operations themselves are the highlight in terms of gaming of my week. In fact, the only gaming that I do each week.
Do you
for the most part, I do play.
Just going to call you out there, Teo. Ari, Teo said the highlight of his week is gaming. That's right. Escaping from you is the highlight of his week.
That wasn't what I said.
Just going to get you in trouble here, Teo.
Excellent. Thank you.
No, but so just to feed on from this pretty briefly, you both said that operations is the main reason you do this, to play with other people and to do all that kind of stuff. Do you feel like the game is moving away from that, though?
Well, they haven't made a secret of it, have they? So,
no,
yes, of course. It's all... The focus at the moment, I've made no secret about how I feel about it, is story.
Yeah.
They have decided the episodic content and focusing on what BioWare does best, the cinematic storytelling, is their thing, and that's what they're going to do. And they're going to ride that for what it's worth. And the MMO bits, they're going to do them too eventually, but the focus is on the story. And I honestly think that's a mistake, that you can't just do that. Yeah. So I have faith the MMO bits will come, and if they don't, then we have a problem.
So what MMO bits do you think is required right now? What would you... So let's say they're making a post saying, okay, this is coming, what does this need to be to get you interested?
It's in terms of the other content that is for groups. Specifically, new operations.
Yeah.
New flashpoints. I mean, making all the old ones available and relevant again, I mean, that is an excellent move, no doubt about it, in ensuring we have a wide selection. So that was a great move. And it does form the foundation going forward for new operations and flashpoints. But for me personally, that's the kind of thing. PvP content, GSF content, those are all things that would be nice. But I've sort of steered away from PvP of late, just for various reasons. And so I'm more on the PvE side. But I would also like more just general stuff in the world to do. And I'm thinking more the traditional leveling experience. Believe it or not, I actually enjoy that. And it saddens me that they have compressed it and accelerated it to such a degree that it's just a matter of hours rather than days to actually move up through the levels.
It's an interesting change in the kind of the, I don't know what the word would be, like the zeitgeist, I guess, of MMOs at the moment, where I think the main reason they're doing it is the popular games right now with things like Dota and LoL, where you just jump in, you all have the same kind of relative same start, and you just play the game. And it makes it very accessible to all types of players. Whereas MMOs traditionally, I mean, I think it took me over a month to get to level cap in WoW, to get to level, was it 50 or 60? I can't remember the first level cap was, 60 in WoW. It took a
even
very
that's
long
fast.
time.
Yeah, even that's pretty fast.
I go hardcore chill. And my first blue item that I crafted took me a week and a half of straight grinding for about 4 hours a night to get a blue item. The Heartseeker Dagger, shout out to Heartseeker Dagger.
Oh, God, yeah.
It took me an incredible amount of time. Now, the issue with this is, for people who want to get involved with the game, there's obviously a gateway to entry where you have to do all of this grindy content to get there. But I think the one thing that we've kind of got away from with all of the hustle and bustle to get to instant 60s and stuff is there was a certain feeling of gratification you got from earning something the hard way.
Yep.
And I know you're playing it online, so it's not really hard work. You know, I'm talking like building a house for the homeless people. But it's when I got that dagger, I was so happy.
It's time and effort. Yes.
And it seems now they're removing both of these things, which gives you a more of an instant gratification, which I guess is the way the industry is going. But do you think that has a negative impact in the long term?
Yes. Because you don't feel like you've earned it, because you're more or less just given it to you. It's like in WoW when they started raining epics. Really did devalue
the welfare epics, yeah.
Yeah, so anything in life that is worthwhile, you do actually have to work for. And it's always time and effort, no matter whether it's online or in real life or whatever. So in taking that away, just giving it to you, what's the point?
Okay.
Right. And of course, the easier it is to get, the easier it is to walk away from. So
that's very true. Yeah, that's very true.
Very good.
Do you know what? I hadn't thought of that, Chill. That honestly hadn't crossed my mind. That's an excellent point. Because if you built yourself up that quickly, you can just do it again. And,
Though we're also from an older generation, so maybe we just don't get the young kids and the instant gratification.
I used to walk 10 miles to school, Teo, uphill both ways through broken glass and snow. Dogs would attack me. Savage life. But the other thing I wanted to talk about with the lack of operations, and you talk about group content, one of the main reasons, in fact, it is 100% the main reason I play MMOs is for the social aspect of playing with other people and building that little community that you have. Some of the most fun I've ever had was playing with some random guy from Norway who's drunk on some kind of fermented fish-based beer or something, and it's enjoyable to have. It's always a new experience. And the thing that I've noticed, and I guess it wouldn't be a podcast with me if I didn't mention the death of 8-Man Ranked, but that kind of was the catalyst for the demise of the PvP community, and all those players scattered to the wind, and that's really what made me sad. And I fear that that's going to happen to the PvE community, because now there's not really any incentive to be in the guild. You've got this looking for group thing which will get everyone together. The raids are relatively easy from what I understand, apart from the Nightmare mode one, which may be a little bit trickier. But you can still get the gratification of doing the easy ones. Do you think that is going to be a legitimate threat to guilds and social structures within the game, or is it just, it's going to be fine?
It obviously affects the progression community, the players who consider themselves, and in practice really were, extremely good at the game.
Yeah.
So they will move on to something more challenging, and they have. So
they have. Mm-hmm.
But they were a very small percentage of the whole. For the rest of us, the more casual, hardcore, softcore, whatever you want to call us, it's enough. And this, at least assuming the content keeps coming, it is sufficient to keep probably the vast majority of people who are playing the game currently.
I want to go back to the hardcore even in a second, but from your point of view as a kind of self-admitted mid-core player, we'll say, what kind of release cycle do you think is required for them to maintain players like you in the game?
Because new operation every 6 months.
Every 6 months, okay. So we'd expect one more around April, May time.
And that's a fair-sized operation, not just a single warehouse.
Yeah, that'd be about right. In the past, that's more or less the pace we've we've been on. We're sort of just finishing up, hard modes and barely getting through them, and then all of a sudden there's a new operation out there, and in the past that's been exactly how it has been. Not sure exactly how it's working out this expansion yet with the the recycled but upgraded operations. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to turn out, but I guess it also depends on when the next one comes. So.
Okay, so going back onto the hardcore people for a second now, when they left, it wasn't so much them leaving that I responded negatively to. It was more the manner they did it, which I thought was very petty and childish. But the issue of them leaving is, in my opinion, very legitimate, because they are the inspirers, if you follow me. They're the people you see on the fleet, and you look at them and you think, oh, how did you get that gear, or how did you get that mount, or how did you get that title? And that's what drives a lot of the people to get into the game. And to go back to WoW for a second, back when WoW was more difficult at level 60, I remember standing in Orgrimmar, and there was a guy there was a rogue in the gear that dropped from Molten Core. And I remember looking and going, oh my god, that's so cool, he's got this gear, I need to do this. I was like, where'd you get that from? You get it from doing this 40-man raid. And I was like, what? You can get 40 people together. What? And that really inspired me to do it. And then I got like a few of my friends, and we then got together and we did groups. We got our gear to a reasonable level, and then we started applying for these guilds. And then the circle kind of continues, where people will go, oh, you got that mount, where'd you get that from? And I'm like, get on my level, noob. Go and farm some gear and that kind of stuff. Do you think the game is going to suffer negatively from a lack of those type of players?
No. But then again, my viewpoint may be a bit different from most, in that kind of thing never really did inspire me. I'm more just interested in the personal challenge and getting together with other people, and those people with so much time on their hands that they can get that good at the game. I mean, good on them, but it's hardly a role model I want to aspire to.
I think that's a pretty weak line of argument, that because you are good at a video game, you have priorities in an incorrect order, or you...
Or maybe they are particularly good at a video game. I mean, great. That's fine. But
yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't, from that point of view, I definitely wouldn't agree with it, because I've never really seen a direct correlation to time in to skill out. There obviously is a learning curve involved, but I think people have a natural cap. It's like, for example, Teo, if I practice sprinting 100 meters for the rest of my life, I'm not going to get a world championship or anything else. There's a certain cap.
But the same applies to a natural ability or whatever. It's just not something that is aspirational for me personally. Okay,
and Chill, what are your thoughts on?
Yeah, for this issue, for the hardcore gamers who did leave, I would say the in-game example you gave is potential, but probably an edge case. But a little more concerning for me is that a lot of those players do put hundreds and hundreds of hours into a game, and some of them then go on to make websites and potentially podcasts and and streams and becoming a bigger part of the community as well. So and when they leave, then that potential is therefore gone as well. So that was for me the most concerning thing about them leaving. So
this is something that struck home a lot as well when the new expansion dropped, because for the first 2 weeks, I would say a staggering amount of the comments of people in my stream were gear related. Like what you gear now, what you spec now. We're just looking for those answers. I'm not really not the man for that as well, is the worst part.
Right.
So it's...
But neither are we.
No, but who is now, though? I mean, who is? We've got Bantu graciously did another gearing guide, but let's say he left, then, having one person doing that for an entire game is kind of depressing, really. Like, the lack of theory crafting in this game is quite...
Keyboard
quite
Ninja,
bad.
Ufalong, those guys are still out there. And even without that, maybe people just have to work it out themselves.
What, Teo?
All things are possible.
Yeah.
The vacuum will be filled one way or the other. It may take more time because the obsessives are no longer here, and that's okay. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. That's very philosophical there, Teo, and non-committal. Very, very New Zealandish of you. But if you could add in any game mode to the game, what would it be? Anything at all. Go mental. Anything. whatever
easy.
you pick.
Galactic Starfighter PvE. I would have that in a heartbeat. That would definitely be my thing. If we could have an operation where we're all in Starfighters or whatever, that would be awesome.
Chill?
Right. Well, my favorites the devs already know about. I'd love to play Pazak, or Sabak,
Minigames.
Mini games would be fun. And as difficult as it might be, I would if GSF got reinvigorated, that would be a lot of fun, because I did enjoy that period of time when everyone was playing it, but then we all just seemed to move away from it, and I haven't really gone back, unfortunately. So.
Possibly the complete lack of support the game mode received after its.
Let me ask you a controversial point on this, then, because currently at the moment there's a scourge of just terrible players in PvP. We're all doing it to get the companions that you have to do 20 games or get to.
M4 whatever.
Yeah. Which is it's making pops faster, I guess, kind of, but it's making the games absolutely terrible.
If they're on your side, yes.
Oh, there's no fun when they're on your side or the other side, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, that's true.
But do you think that doing something like this for GSF would be a good idea? Because people just don't play it.
Just dragging them in for the hell of it?
Just to see if anything sticks. Because, I mean, are the games going to be any better? I mean...
No, it's just fodder for people to farm, that's all. Okay,
so if that's the case, why do you think they did it for PvE?
Good question. Don't know. I don't think it was a particularly good idea.
Okay. Chill?
I don't know. I'm not sure why they chose to gate a particular companion that way, but I'm assuming it was something along what you're thinking, which is, hey, if we get people to play a bunch of games, some of them will get good at it, and some of them will start to like it or realize that, oh, it's not that bad. I actually kind of like this or whatever. Whether that's actually true, we'll see. But I hope it's true, but I don't. I have my doubts as well.
So with running the podcast, I know you have the two guilds. You have, is it Ootini Knights and Ootini Rage? Sorry, let me say that properly. Yep. Ootini Rage as well on there. How has running the podcast affected that? Has it helped it at all? Has it made it harder? What experience have you had with it?
Well, it's what brought people into the guild in the first place. I mean, that's how they found us. So we've met the most amazing people. I mean, that is probably the highlight of the entire experience of doing the podcast, is creating the guild and having people find us and us getting to know them. And there are some of the most amazing people, genuinely really good people, and we wouldn't have met them otherwise. Right. So
a lot of them are in the chat during the live shows, and we've even had a few of them on as guests since they've joined,
And everyone in our raid team, with the exception of Rob, who was with us in WoW, and Mosk, who was with us in WoW, are people that we met through the show, and we would never have found them otherwise. So,
okay, well, that's nice to know to you. And you met your lovely partner from her as well. I know you got a little kid. That's like the ultimate loot from raiding, is it? and by the way, I'm not implying that Ari is a 20-man raid boss. By the way, that's not what I intended with that. So we've talked about the story a little bit. I want to just go back and touch over this again, because we've done the MMO parts, but the actual story itself. How did you find the story? Did you enjoy it? What did you like about it? What did you dislike about it? Was it long enough? Give me your overall thoughts.
You're talking about Knights of the Fallen Empire?
Knights of the Fallen Empire, they're just on the new expansion,
Bit short. Now, let me say my piece about this. Episodic story content is not a new thing. Other games have tried it.
Yeah.
And not particularly successfully. So as a way of keeping people subscribed, I have my doubts whether it will be sufficient. So... But then again, the focusing on the storytelling, I see MMOs more as a world.
Yeah.
It's like you see the Star Wars universe through the movies, through the books, and then you say, that's really cool kind of world. I would like to be in that world.
Yeah.
And then an MMO provides that opportunity to get into that world and interact and be there and do things. But a cinematic story experience, like a kind of movie inside the game, it's just taking it too far. I don't want to passively consume content. I don't want to see story scene after story scene with a whole lot of sky troopers in between that I have to very easily take out. I mean, it's a good story, but that's all it is. And that's a very contained, short experience. So, yeah, the story's fine. It's not enough for an MMO.
Okay.
Is my summary.
Jill, what are your thoughts on the story itself?
All right. Well, I am enjoying the story. It took me until the second time through and before like certain things fell even into place for me, because I was way too paranoid about the Emperor at first, and I thought he was just like ready to, jump down my spine any chance I gave him.
Yeah.
So it feels really weird to have them try to make him into a family guy.
I really want to talk about this because I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when people are talking about Valkorion. I've called him Space Ninja Wizard Hitler. Because the guy, literally, this isn't an exaggeration, he created an entire culture based around slavery and xenophobia, rather than racism, I guess. It's towards aliens rather than anything else. He massacred billions of people, not just, the casualties of war, for what appears to be, story-wise, for the lols. He destroyed billions of women, children, families, just decimated them. And then our question is, do you want to team up with this guy who is literally worse than Hitler? And everyone's like, oh yeah, he's voice acted really well. The guy is Space Hitler. And of course I call him Spittler from now on. And it seems to be the only person who kind of connects these two things together, that this guy is really, really horrible. Why is that? Why is that? I feel like I'm going mad sometimes with this.
No, I absolutely had, like I said, I had the first time through, I was not able to sort of appreciate what the story was trying to do, because I kept thinking, well, here's the Emperor, and I do not understand yet what exactly the difference is, or what the change was, or which one is a lie, which one is the truth. I absolutely do not know at this point how any of that is going to shake out. It's very bizarre to me. Having said that, once I was sort of able to figure out what they were doing with the story, at least on the surface, I enjoyed it a lot, and I thought it was interesting. But I'm still having a very hard time, kind of sorting the differences between Valkorion and the Sith Emperor. So.
It's the same person.
In terms of working with him, it depends on the character that you're playing. If you're playing a particularly dark side, selfish prick, then I guess you would embrace the whole Valkorion vitiate thing, but otherwise you wouldn't. So
I think,
but you're right. He is what he is.
There's levels of evil in terms of people we think are evil people. There's a sliding scale on this, and to have someone who is arguably the biggest villain that Star Wars has ever seen in terms of body count. And all of a sudden it's turned into like a buddy cop movie. It's like Freaky Friday where you body swap with someone, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, roll reversal, he's tidy now, he's alright, let's go and kill his children. Let's bear in mind this guy he also wants you to kill his children. Well, he wants you to dethrone Arkan, doesn't he? That's the kind of the plot at the moment.
Indeed.
It just seems bizarre to me. To me, it seems like people have taken two stories which should never have connected, and they've just forced them together in whatever way they possibly can.
You could think it's exercise in utilitarian philosophy in terms of there is the ultimate goal here, which is to restore the Republic and or the Sith Empire. And to do that, you do need to defeat them. And if you've got this voice in your head who is trying to help you and it's stuck there anyway, well, you sort of could go with it. It's not like you have a choice, right?
For me, I can sum up the story in one scene. This is how I view the story. It's this one scene, and it's a lot like the previous films, like the prequels, if you like. So we're all familiar with the prequels where Anakin shouts out that amazing line, well, to me, the Jedi are the bad guys. I can't remember the actual quote for it, but it's something horrendous. For me, from my point of view, you're the bad guys. And you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, why did you say that? That's such a stupid thing to say. I understand the perspective of it all, but God, that's such a terrible line. And for this entire expansion, it's the flight with Koth. When you say to Koth, your emperor massacred billions of people. And he's like, well, he was good to us. I thought, oh, Jesus Christ, who wrote that?
Yeah. People can be wrong, so...
They can, it's just a response, though. Why would any rational person say that? And he's meant to be a main
character. I'm sure they have, historically, in real life. I'm sure people have gone along with exactly that, so...
Mm-hmm. He's a monster, but he's our monster.
Yeah. Well, maybe. Maybe I'm just overreacting to this whole thing. I just feel like when I played through it, I was like, how can anyone pick these options? Like, seriously.
Probably nowhere near as unrealistic as you think.
Maybe.
In-group, out-group stuff, and those people over there, well, maybe they were all bad, the ones he killed. Who knows?
Maybe we're going to find out that Doist was actually going to kill everyone even worse than he was, and he did everyone a favor by doing it. We just retconned it all.
It's a bit of a stretch to justify the extinction of, Nathema or Xylast, so...
Okay. We'll move on to this because it still boggles my mind, and we'll get to the next topics a little bit here. So, with the build-up to the recent expansion, we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I want to go into it in a bit more detail. There was obviously this marketing campaign, the information shared, the trailers. What was your overall view of how they did the build-up to this expansion?
Patchy,
okay.
The cinematics were superb, the one they got Blur to do. So, Sacrifice was amazing. So... just in terms of marketing generally, the coverage doesn't seem to be that good, or the reach that far. I assume they just have limited money to spend.
Okay.
I mean, what they did do is pretty good, but could wish for more.
And Chill?
Yeah, we were definitely okay with what they gave us as far as the upcoming story. We were a little less happy with the fact that they waited so long to give us information on all these changes that are going on with companions and with crafting and all the stuff that the ongoing players were wanting to know about. I don't know if that I'm still not sure if how much of that was like changes still being made until very late and that sort of thing, but it definitely added to the overall flavor that they were going almost exclusively for new players at this point, and letting ongoing players sort of take a back seat for a little while. So,
take a back seat. That's a good name for another podcast. Okay. So now we've been playing this for a couple of weeks. I think it's been out for a month or so now, hasn't it? The honeymoon period is pretty much over. We've done the story. We've done the alliance things. What are your overall thoughts about the expansion? And I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I know you've mentioned that you don't think the story is enough. But is there anything else that you can bring on that question? What is your overall view? Is it a good expansion, bad expansion, okay? What are you looking forward to, not looking forward to?
It's great for what it is, basically. They executed that part. The bugs that have come along with it, the fact that just a few things kind of broke, that part disappoints me. And I honestly wish that they'd had the resources to ensure, or for whatever reason, I don't know why, that these bugs exist. And that disappoints me because this is their big chance, and they're bringing a lot of people in, and if things screw up, then it's going to drive them away again. So I just wish there weren't so many little missteps, but I mean overall it's been pretty solid. I've played through the actual storyline and no problems at all. Okay. For the most part things work.
Chill?
Yeah. So many quality of life changes. I mean, the game is actually, in terms of, everything from being able to right click and whisper your guildies to random mounts and random pets and all sorts of like little things, which, but again, they didn't really talk about before it launched. I mean, very little, very last minute. They did a little bit before it launched, but I was like, if we'd known how much of that sort of stuff was coming that we as an ongoing player base would have appreciated, I think it would have gone a long way to ameliorating us, so or our feelings at least.
So with the attraction, I agree with you, this expansion was entirely geared around to getting new players in and really setting a foundation to build upon for the future. It was almost like a relaunch of the game of sorts.
It's been called that.
With the kind of companion gating that's going on now, do you think that's going to have a huge negative impact, or do you just think people generally won't care?
I think they won't care, to be honest. It won't make that much difference. When it comes down to it, you only need, if you're not a crafter, you need exactly one companion
Yeah.
to be your buddy, because you can make him a healer, tank, or DPS. That's all you need. You get at least one of those for free. So,
yeah.
I mean, you can just Pokemon it, and you got to collect them all in terms of followers.
I Pokemon it hard, Teo. I Pokemon hard.
Mm-hmm.
I got them all. I was even playing the Pokemon theme music when I did it.
Excellent. Yeah, personally, I'm not sure I will. I'll probably get a subset on various characters.
Yeah. Okay. And Chill?
Yeah. One thing about this companion change is that while they're sort of setting things up for new players to join the game, this is definitely going to make it difficult to change from one main character to another, because I am not going to be doing alliance on other characters unless I absolutely have to.
That grind, though, that grind is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of grinding. I don't mind doing it, but
yeah, and I like the alliance stuff actually quite a bit. I think it's well done, and I think it's a lot more interesting than dailies, which have never been to my taste.
Yeah.
So the alliance stuff is actually a lot more interesting to me, but I certainly don't want to have to do it on every character that I level to 60 and 65 and beyond.
Yeah. Do you think they should have some kind of legacy system built in then to the companions, where you start
Hopefully,
off with more or faster rep? Or
yeah, maybe at some point.
Would be ideal.
Yeah, I can't see myself doing anything on any other characters. Really,
right. Maybe it's the sort of thing where, like other aspects of the game, where they make it a little harder now and then they ease it up a little bit later on. So.
I'm willing to wait. Yep.
Okay. So overall, bearing in mind all the things you've said today and what we think is going to happen in the future, what we want to see, do you think the game has a bright future, a positive future, or is it kind of thin as wheels in the mud?
That is entirely up to BioWare in terms of what they do in the future.
Well, no shit, what do you put your opinion on it?
Honestly, I can't tell.
Okay.
Right now, if they focus entirely on story and they don't give us the MMO bits, then I am extremely concerned about the future of the game. I just think it'll grind down and go nowhere. If they focus on this in its entirety, there is more. There must be more. And if they don't give us that more, the game probably won't flourish, so to speak.
Do you not think that people will just kind of like game the system where they, and I guess it's kind of what they're relying on for sales, but what I mean by this is you get the expansion, you play through the first 9 chapters, great. Then you go off, you play whatever other game you want to play, you come back in 6 months' time, you resub for a month, get the previous 6 months, whatever the expansions were, or the story content, and then you unsub again. Do you think that's going to be the model they're looking for?
Well, if people even remember to come back, they're going to make the decision about whether $15 a month US is worth 1 or 2 hours of content.
1 or 2 hours is very, very generous in terms of how much content you get.
Out. And it just seems like that seems a little unlikely. So, yes, I would assume.
I played through the first 9 chapters, and this was not skipping. I was skipping some stuff in stealth, but this was not skipping the story or anything else, picking fast options. It took me just over 5 hours to do everything. The second time I did it, I spacebarred through everything, and it took me about an hour and a half. And that was also Odessa and all the other stuff and bits and pieces with that, which you can probably skip because it's not really to do anything. It's just like a tutorial for your garrison thing. And my concern of it is, I'm going to sub to this game because I'm invested in this game. I spend a lot of time playing it. I like the community that I'm part of, and I'm not really their target audience for this. My concern is people who are subbing, who aren't getting any PvE content or PvP content, we then get half an hour to play. I think half an hour is a realistic what it's going to be. Even the longest chapters was about half an hour to 45 minutes.
Sure.
Is that going to be enough when they don't have the inherent ties you normally have in MMOs, which is the community thing? That's why people say something.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Which is why we genuinely hope they will provide those MMO bits. I have faith they will, but we just got to wait and see.
Do you both see yourself kind of just playing this now forever, regardless of what happens, or is there a tipping point for you?
That's always hard to tell.
Yeah.
We just take that one week by week, basically.
Week by week, is it?
Well,
one match at a time.
That's the only honest. Right. There's nothing that's it's not like we have a contract that says you must play this game unto eternity. But there's no end point for me playing it at this point. So.
Yeah, no, the same. Especially since I've got less time to play, so it's not like yeah, there's certainly enough to keep me entertained.
But see, this is my concern with it, though. See, this is the part that kind of worries me more than the casual players coming and going. Is it if people like you who produce content on a week-to-week basis all the time and are fairly prevalent in the community are at the point where you're saying things like, well, maybe I'm busy, I don't have time to play anymore, maybe I don't want to come back unless this happens. Those types of players leaving, again, it leaves those big holes, and whilst I'm sure people will come in and fill them eventually, it's always going to be a significant loss, or a more significant loss to the game as a whole. You just don't care. Don't be modest here. Come on, you're kind of a big deal. It's okay. Those cheekbones just keep everyone tuning in every single week. But that is my concern, is that we're going to get to the point where the content creators will either be so watered down or, like a Z team, that it's just not going to be worth watching or doing or being part of.
If that happens, it happens. It's not like you can stop it. It's really up to BioWare and the game they create.
Okay. C'est la vie, is it, What will be, will be.
Well, there's not much point stressing about it. It's not like we can change it.
I disagree with that. I think there's lots of things that we can do to make changes. But I understand your overall view with that. We can't make huge changes to the game that people want. I agree with that one. But I think there are a lot of
do what we can to ensure that, well, we certainly want to counter misinformation. We want to make sure that the game is portrayed in an accurate light. Okay. And generally positive in terms of, because that's just the way we are. This is the kind of people we are. We're not going to just bash anything because we just don't. Yeah. It's just not who we are. But we've also got to be honest about how we feel.
So I'm just going to wrap this up now. This is the last kind of point here. But if you had a blank check, a blank slate, you can do anything you want to the game. You can make your dream MMO. What would you do? Just give me like 2 or 3 things that you'd like to see done. Like, for example, I want to rework the engine completely so my computer doesn't shit the bed when I get more than 3 players on my screen. Give me your top 3 things that you'd like to do. Anything at all.
It would be along those lines. Just create a more immersive, deep, richer world with lots and lots and lots of things to do. A world that you can kind of inhabit more. Maybe with virtual reality. That'd be even better.
A VR Star Wars game.
Yeah.
They're not walking around with their lightsabers.
There was a guy from Industrial Light and Magic. They're doing some active research into exactly that for Star Wars specifically. So,
Chill, what would you go for?
Oh yeah, well, it was kind of unfortunate that they have this really amazing engine that came out, literally just a year or 2 after they started working on SWTOR. It would have been amazing to see it on this, on this newer engine.
Or on Frostbite. Yeah,
on Frostbite. That would be just incredible. Overall, I think, basically though, I too am hooked. If I play another MMO, it's got to have the voice acting, man. That's just... It's got to be part of it.
You were right. We literally are spoiled for any other MMO.
Oh, it ruins it for you. Yeah, I know. Really, really badly. But, okay. I think that's pretty much covered everything. Is there anything in the future that you're especially looking forward to? Or are we covered everything off that you want to go for?
All those MMO bits. That's what I'm looking forward to. More operations.
I can't wait to see all of them as raid bosses. So
there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's what we're looking forward to.
So. Yeah. That'll be fun. And yes, I am curious like how this story is going to keep going. I mean, it is a good story. So
it is a good story. There is no doubt of that. It's just not enough.
Okay. Well, that's everything I wanted to talk about, guys. So unless you have any other topics you want to cover over.
It's good
Thank
for
you
me.
for talking to us, Snave.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
You're more than welcome.
It's been an honor.
Thank you for coming on, and thank you for being the first people to take a seat. I said the name of the show in the show. See, it's like a...
it's nice.
Thanks, guys. All right, can we get a shout out? So, Teo, where can we find you? And where's OotiniCast? Give all your plugs. Let's try and get some more people watching you.
You can find me personally on Twitter at Jason Etheridge, which just happens to be my real name. And, of course, the show itself, we're on Twitter at OotiniCast, and OotiniCast.com has all of our shows and any other content we happen to have produced. It's all there.
Chill?
Yep, and I tweet out at Brandon L. Star, but OotiniCast is definitely where to go for the show.
What time and day is it on, guys? God, Jesus. This is why your PR sucks.
We live stream Wednesdays at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, on OotiniCast.com/live. We're also on twitch.tv/OotiniCast. So that's when we live stream, and then we produce the actual MP3 podcast the next day. So,
excellent. Thank you very much, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to listening to you next week. Take care.
Thank you, Snave.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye, Snave.